Is it recording? Okay. For the thousands watching on YouTube and the millions listening on their podcast app of choice, this is the podcast formerly known as Ben versus Ben. Yes, formerly known as the Ben versus Ben podcast. Ben, it's match week 13, or match week 12. Sorry about that. Little Christmas cheer come early in the eggnog. Match week 12 has just concluded. And Ben, we have a new addition to the podcast. We have a new teammate, Mr. Geoff. Geoff, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much. Thank you to Ben for coming groveling to me, begging me to be on this podcast. You guys need some X Factor, and here I am. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a Watford fan born in Watford. Struggling watching their dire, boring, goal-shy games at the moment. But really happy to have an excuse to come here and talk about the Premier League. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
At what level did you play football at? Semi-pro? Were you ever in the Championship? What experience do you have?
Oh, my experience.
Yeah.
I played for university level, college level football. Did
anyone else play in that team with you?
There was this weird, wonky-eyed, slow, sick note of a right back whose name was Ben. Was that you?
I don't know. I do remember doing a lot of covering, both in defending and attacking, to make up for our very weak right-sided midfielder. But that sounds about right.
Forgive me. I grew up playing American sports, but I always thought that the right back was sort of like the the right fielder in baseball. You put the terrible person there, like the worst guy on the team. We're like right field. That's essentially what we did with Ben, right? Put him in the right back position.
I think you'll notice that is one of the strongest positions in the England squad right now. A lot of it I was the nemesis for it. So a lot of people that you see now, James, Alexander-Arnold, they've based their game on myself. So that's why we're very strong in that position. And we have very little midfield talent coming through.
I can imagine just Reece James and South London growing up as a kid, right? Just in his dream board, just a picture of your old ass, just trundling up the field. I wouldn't call it running. It's just trundling without ACLs, just kind of up the field.
Once I made it to the halfway line, that was a big day for me.
Okay. Let's stop with this nostalgia. We had a great, well, not really, but week 12 has storylines. It actually was a storyline of incompetence, as all the Big Six teams dropped. Well, all the Big Six teams dropped points. Leicester, not really Big Six yet, but we'll talk about that. Our main match this week that I want to focus on, Arsenal 0, Burnley 1. And Geoff, I'm going to give you the honor of the question of the week. Is there a discipline issue at Arsenal?
Straight in there with the big question. Well, I don't know if there's a discipline issue at Arsenal. I've got to be completely honest. They are top of the Premier League table at the moment for red cards and yellow cards, right? I think I'm right in saying that. And is the thing is, who are the characters that they have in their team? They do have David Luiz, who's really happy to take someone out and take a yellow card. You've got the feistiness of Xhaka, which showed itself in this past weekend. I don't really know. I haven't really been aware of it. And I think the problem is that I quite like a yellow card. I don't even want to. I guess the premise of this question is that ill discipline is a bad thing. I actually like the fact that Xhaka grabbed that guy by the throat. And I think that if more of the Arsenal team showed that kind of spirit and that kind of fight, maybe they wouldn't be in the position that they are right now.
Geoff Hiram from the Roy Keane school of thought on showing passion in a derby. He'd be very happy with those comments right now.
Ben, I'm going to ask you a question, knowing that you and Geoff go back to the college years. Did Geoff have a choking fetish? Did he like to get choked out? Because he seems to like Xhaka, El Nini, and Guendouzi in the past couple months have stuck their hands around opponents' necks and gotten a red card. Of course they have a discipline problem. You can't do multiple of their teammates. I mean, Guendouzi hasn't been seen since doing against Brighton, I believe. El Nini and Xhaka did it in the same match. This is a problem that Arteta has.
So, yes, I think one of Geoff's fantasies is being choked by Pepe. So that does come across a lot. So I get that. I think it's a sign of just a very, very frustrated team. Like, they're not necessarily hard men. They're not necessarily the trouble and the violence isn't a last-ditch tackle. It's not fighting for the team. It's bred out of frustration. It's stupidness. It's aggravation. It's aggression in the player's face rather than fighting or a late tackle. So I think I'm in the opposite school of thought for this. That this is a bad sign for Arsenal, and that I think there's a need to show we care, and I think that's what Arsenal fans' biggest complaint. But it's maybe manifesting itself in the wrong ways.
So let's go to the negative side. So I'm clearly going to side with Ben and say this is like, I think, Geoff, maybe you're not as aware, but I think that Arsenal, this is more of a rotten to the core culture that's manifesting itself out in the field into frustration. I don't think if everything's kumbaya in the locker room that we have people choking each other out. I found this funny. There was a headline this week from the Mirror. Take it what you want. Arteta will destroy Leaker. That everyone has been leaking. I think there was a training ground fight with our favorite Brazilian, David Luiz, who's, by the way, losing his hair, which is quite kind of funny. Is going bald. Him bald is going to be quite the scene. Him and Frank Lampard, when they shave their heads, it's going to be really quite a scene. But, Ben, like, what can this say when Arteta can't even keep his anger for leaking in-house, that he can't keep any of it? Nothing stays in-house at Arsenal.
I think it's going to take David Luiz a long time to lose his hair, but I think this is, so it's from the Mirror, so who knows if it's true or not. And I think this is the typical paper way of starting a rumbling about getting a manager out. He's lost a dressing room, fighting behind closed doors, and I think it's just I don't read too much into these stories. I don't think Arteta cares. I think he's frustrated, but I don't think many people in the Arsenal team are going to pay much attention to stories like that. I'm not sure they've got a leaker in the squad. And what are they saying? They had a fight? I don't think it's a...
I don't know. I think it was pretty much... It sounded pretty confirmed, because didn't Arteta even reference that there was someone... He's like acknowledged that is what happened, and that's where that came from. Like, he's actually quoting. I think the Mirror got. I wouldn't trust the Mirror as far as I could throw them, but like they did get their source from somewhere else. Can't quite remember where it was, but I think it's been documented that Arteta's even acknowledged that it's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, the David Luiz training ground fight, I forgot who he got in a fight with, was leaked, right? So that is interesting. That is interesting. Ben, you think it's paper nonsense? I think it's just more evident. Like, this whole thing is, I believe everything coming out of Arsenal, because it's manifesting itself on the field, right? The results tell me that there's something systemically wrong. Their actions on the pitch, being petulant little childs, tell me something is wrong. So where there's smoke, I believe there's fire, generally. Geoff, Ben and I have been talking about Aubameyang and how I think he's on the beach. He signed, I've always questioned I question the ambition of someone who's, Aubameyang's, I think, 30, 31. He's not going to win anything at Arsenal. He's at the end of his career, and he's not really a club legend at Arsenal. They're really bending that. I mean, he's been there for like two or three seasons. So I think he's on the beach. Geoff, what would you say to the fact that Aubameyang has as many own goals at the Emirates this season as he does goals?
I mean, it's absolutely terrifying, isn't it? I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking to myself, like, where's the talisman at Arsenal? Like, you would think it would be Aubameyang, right? You would think it would be him, but that, like, you saying that, like, oh, he is he on the beach? I think is the whole squad on the beach. Like, it's a fair point. Like, haven't they just signed Willian as well? And like, Willian started the season really strong in the first few games. But if you compare him to like his performances in a Chelsea shirt last season, it is chalk and cheese. I I am really concerned, and even though I made a light-hearted joke about like the violence and how I do like to see that, while I do like to see that, I like the physicality of the game. You are right, that it is representative of a massive issue at Arsenal. But in terms of him scoring more own goals, I love that. I think it's absolutely hilarious. My dad is an Arsenal fan. I rib him for it all the time. I couldn't really be happier about it. But it does. I think you can't separate all of these issues. You have got a disgruntled squad. They are not settled by any means. There doesn't seem to be a clear focus of the team in terms of like how they're playing, or I don't know, their attitude as well. And the fact that like your main striker, your number one player, isn't scoring either, really does say a lot. I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
I think so. My problem here is looking at that game against Burnley. They have Aubameyang out on the right. They have on the left. They have Willian on the right. I think we keep saying this every week, but Aubameyang playing through the centre is the makes the most sense. That's where he excelled last season as well. He is their talisman, but he seems to be suffering from the Tino Werner farmed out on the wing. And yesterday, Lacazette and Aubameyang were crossing balls in for Holding and Tierney. They were like the centre forwards getting on the ends of crosses. Like, that's not what you want. You really want your wing backs feeding your centre forwards, not the other way around. I know they're trying to overload the box, but no wonder they're not finishing. So I think Aubameyang's on big money for a reason. I don't think you get many 20-plus goals Premiership scorers in a season, and that's who that player is, and that's why they spent big money. So I'm not quick to throw. Lacazette's struggling, but Aubameyang, his quality, he still wants to play for the club. I think some of it, they are a victim of the system they're playing.
So none of us are Arsenal fans by trade. We have a Watford fan who likes to rip his father for being an Arsenal fan. We have a Manchester United fan. We have a Chelsea fan. All of us have probably enjoyed what the Germans call Schadenfreude in seeing the Arsenal struggle like they are. So we're going to play a little game. We're going to play a little game, and it's around the number 7. 7 is the number of losses that Arsenal have in the first 12 matches, which is unheard of. I just want to put the number 7 in perspective. So I'm going to give you a reference of pop culture, some item of pop culture. You got to tell me if Arsenal's 7 losses are more, less, or equal to that reference. For example, we'll do an easy one to begin. Ben. So I'm going to go in alternating order. Ben, you say more, less, or equal to. First question: Skywalker Star Wars film. Is Arsenal's 7 losses less than, or more than, or equal to the number of Skywalker Star Wars films?
Equal to.
Geoff?
I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to say 7 is actually greater.
That is both of the wrong. It's 9. It's 3. It's the prequels, the trilogy, and the post trilogy. Okay.
I was counting Solo. My bad.
Listen, I thought we were going to get this wrong. Harry Potter books. Geoff.
That's equal. That's equal. 7.
Ben.
Less than.
It is equal to 7. Geoff gets a point. Ben. Twilight books.
It's more than.
Geoff?
Yeah, it's more than.
Both of you get a point. Geoff up by 1. MCU Robert Downey Jr. appearances or movies that he's in, more or less than 7.
What's MCU?
Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Iron Man.
No one knows that. Less than.
More than.
Ben gets a point. We're all tied up with the final thing close to our hearts on the podcast, the IMDb rating of Green Street Hooligans.
Oh, it's got to be more than.
Geoff?
Oh, that's tough. I would personally rate it higher. I'd put Green Street higher than 7, but I have a feeling for all of the non-football loving world, it'd probably be less. So I'm going to say Arsenal 7 is more than.
It is less. You guys you finished on a tie. The IMDb rating of Green Street Hooligans is 7.5.
As it should be. As it should
fair
be.
enough.
That's
It
fair.
was a very long way to get to that joke.
It's one of the best movies ever made, so it makes sense.
Oh, okay, so we played the game. Arsenal 7 losses are a lot. Guys, we've gone through, in the past 10 years, I feel like ever since Twitter was around, there's been one hashtag that has followed the football world around. It's been hashtag Wenger out. Are we gearing up for Arteta out, Wenger in? Hashtag Wenger in to steady the ship, keep them out of relegation. He's been doing the book tour. He's got the itch. Are we going to see Arsene Wenger on the sideline this season?
I would love to see Wenger in this season. I would absolutely love it, if only just to rub all of those Arsenal fans' noses in it, because so many of them, like you know what they're like. And what's that? Arsenal Fan TV? Is that the YouTube channel?
They might come up later. Arsenal Fan TV might come up later in this podcast. But
yeah, bunch of negative Nellies. Not a fan of that lot at all. And so just to put their noses out of joint, I'd love to see Wenger back. Also, he's a legend of the game. I grew up watching him. He has been there since I was a teenager in the Premier League. I think a teenager, yeah, in the Premier League, managing Arsenal. Absolutely love the man. Also love that he's just a little bit calmer and takes more of like an academic approach to the football. And I don't know. I'd love to see it, but it's not going to happen, is it? Isn't there talk of him taking over an international side? Did I hear of that earlier this year?
It would make sense for Wenger, but Ben, do you want to see Wenger back?
God, Arsenal fans would cut their little finger off to get a top 4 finish in Champions League football. How the mighty has fallen. Listen, I think that, and I've said this before, that Arteta has done enough with his FA Cup win and the good finish to last season to at least deserve a season's worth of football. So I'd love to see him finish this at least the season, because what are they going to get? Let's say they get rid of him, they bring someone else in. Very unlikely they qualify for Europe. They're not going to get relegated. They've spent all the money, so nothing's really going to change. So what do you lose from giving Arteta the rest of the season? The other thing as well is the only concern I do have is Arteta comes in with this idea of a philosophy, well-drilled approaches. It takes a while to get my point across. But he was better at the beginning of his reign as well, where they had more expressive, more freedom to do what they want. The more he seems to impose his will to convey these set patterns of play he wants to see on the field, the more they're stifled, the less expressiveness you see, the less goals, the more boring they are as well. So a little bit of a worry, but I think, look, an FA Cup win is huge, and that's really what they wanted when they changed managers. So you got your FA Cup win. At least buy them some time to see the season out.
Just, keep the Twitter open. Just search hashtag Wenger. It's building, guys. It's building, and the Schadenfreude is so good. Ben, I have to ask you a question. Were you able to keep your eyes open during the Manchester derby this time? Manchester United 0, City 0. That was a bore fest.
I'd say it was much better than the 0-0 with Chelsea. And I'll tell you why. There are a few things that jumped out at me. United defended really, really well. You've got a lot of players that aren't known for being particularly technically good. And it's that triangle of Spider, McTominay, and Maguire, but they were doing little circles to beat the press as well. They played the ball out. Fred, a destroyer in midfield, was suddenly Zinedine Zidane on the ball with his little twirls. So it was a very, very tired game for them as well. I think the biggest reason that it was such a snooze fest as well was Bruno Fernandes. He's been the best player since he joined the club. He looked so tired. That guy needs a break, and he's become undroppable. But he was probably the main reason why we were so disjointed between midfield and attack as well. I know both teams went in there with negative tactics, or at least built to defend. No one wanted to win the game. They were both there for the taking. So it's a little bit disappointing that both teams approached it so cautiously. But yeah, it was a snooze fest. But I think maybe this is just a sign for how these two teams feel about their squad right now, that they're not set up to win every game. You need to be defensive, and maybe a point is okay against the top six.
Ben, Ole made a comment in this match saying that this was glass half full. This was the best Manchester United performance against Man City since he's been there. Ben, I seem to remember them being down 2-0 at halftime. Was it last year? And then coming back to win the 3-2. Does he have amnesia, or does he have a point about that?
We beat City twice last season, at home and away, and that 3-2, that was that Scott McTominay lob from outside the area, which was an absolute beauty. You know, and I get it. Like, usually derbies are absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking of the Rooney overhead kick in that 4-3. There's been some absolute classics. So I think this is just a more pragmatic approach, and maybe a view as to we don't know how to get the best out of this team, and the teams are tired as well. I do have one point, though, slightly off topic, but it's about Gabriel Jesus and how much that guy looks like Mr. Potato Head. I don't know if you've seen him recently, but he's got this like stuck on goatee and like stuck on eyebrows. Like, they look so fake and so Mr. Potato Head. They don't look like they're really part of his body. And it's disturbing me because he looks like he's a faker, like he's an imposter. And he's playing like an imposter as well right now.
Geoff, we have this constant fascination of, is Ole good? Is he not good? It seems like whenever it's all going to cave in, he puts together some results. Geoff, what if I told you that against what is, being considered the best manager in Europe, or the second or third best manager against Pep Guardiola, Ole's last five results: 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Are we too hard on Ole?
Well, okay, so there's a couple of schools of thought here that he's like very clearly the Man United squad are very consistent at the moment, and the results are not as consistent as like people like Ben, who grew up supporting Manchester United, are used to seeing, expect to seeing. But to be honest, at what point are those fans gonna, and the pundits as well, to be honest, gonna remember that Alex Ferguson is not the manager of Manchester United anymore, and that era is long gone. I think in terms of they do well against the big teams. We know that. They know that they Ole, if he has one strength, it is setting up the team to defend, less possession, and hit teams on the break. And they are amazing at doing that because of the speed and the clinicalness of the finishing of their front 3-4 attacking players, depending on who the lineup is on any given week. So it's no surprise that they're doing well against Man City. I think the question is, though, why aren't they a little bit more consistent? And to be honest, I don't really have the answer to that. I think the issue is, though, going back to your initial question, is Ole good or is he not? I think it's kind of irrelevant. Kind of like at the moment when we talk about Arteta, is he good or not? It's kind of an irrelevant question. I think the way they're playing is a reflection of the squad, a reflection of the leadership of the club, not just of the team. And I think, we see a lot of issues at Manchester United. And actually, while we're on the topic, and I'm glad that we're talking about United, just have to talk about Arsenal, because Arsenal are famed or infamous for being, as a club, more focused on economic sustainability than they are on winning trophies, particularly since moving to the Emirates Stadium. And their financial plan is a great one, but I do question whether or not they're really out there to like set the world alight and like make history. And I think the same is becoming true of Man United. I think no matter what manager would be in there at the moment, that they are really, really struggling because they've got, I don't know, look at Paul Pogba in the squad and look at the kind of attitude that he brings, and particularly his agent, the kind of attitude that he brings that like undermines Paul Pogba's focus. And when you've got such a big star in your squad, that does cause a lot of problems. And that's a result of the recruitment policy of Man United. And going in there and buying Cavani as well. Not buying Cavani, but getting Cavani in. Is that the player that Man United needed? Is that the player that Ole needed? And Ben said before, well, yeah, we're better now, and we've been great since Bruno came in. But like one player doesn't. You can't pin that on one player. I don't really know. I'm struggling with Man United at the moment, but I am certainly a fan of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I think he needs to be given time. If anything, he's resilient. He stays positive. He certainly doesn't lay a game down. I think anyone else, you remember David Moyes when he was at Man United, and the look on David Moyes' face, he looked like, I don't know, it just felt sorry for the guy. He's on the verge of tears at the end of every game. But at least Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in there. He feels comfortable. He seems confident. And I think that's what they need at the moment. So I don't know, jury's out on him. He definitely needs a lot more time. And I'm actually enjoying watching Man United play.
So I'm going to take this on a little bit of a tangent. United to me is the Crawleys. They are the Earl of Grantham, a once great house that is falling. And the reason why I bring up the Earl of Grantham, you guys watch Downton Abbey? Either of you? Oh my God. This is not going to work at all. Okay, imagine this, right? I've watched the show, and like with your partners, sometimes you have to rewatch a show with your partners, right? Like you just they want to watch it, so you're like, all right, I'll sign up for it. There's going to be horrific death in this show coming up tonight, and my wife is going to cry, like on the stock of like Robb Stark dying in Game of Thrones. So I don't really know what to do tonight. Should I film her doing it? Should I laugh at her? I don't really know, but it's gonna be really quite funny to watch this like happen tonight. I didn't know if it would have been a lot funnier if you'd seen what reference I'm gonna do. So I'll just move on. But that's the kind of the funny thing to me was, when you know something's horrific going to happen in the show, it's going to crush your partner. Does that mean that I'm soulless, that I take enjoyment of watching that? If I watch it happen on screen, like it's going to make my day watch just get destroyed watching the show. Like
you should have.
We stopped last night. It was like there's like 10 minutes left in the last episode of the third season. I was like, oh, like I know how this ends, and like she's just going to turn on the show. And it's immediately going to happen, and it's going to be quite funny.
It's like watching people's reaction to the Red Wedding. You can go on YouTube and watch people watching it for the first time, just losing their minds.
Oh yeah, I mean this is the equivalent.
People love that.
This is the equivalent of the Red Wedding in Downton Abbey. It's like it's gonna be horrific. It's gonna be great. But I don't know. Am I a sociopath for taking enjoyment of it? I don't know. Anyways, let's go to another sociopath. Jose Mourinho, Tottenham Hotspur, Crystal Palace 1, Tottenham 1. Geoff, I got to ask you, here's a philosophical question. I watched this match. I tend to actually really like watching Crystal Palace, especially with that guy. What is the new guy? Eze? He's a quite fine player, and they're always really physical. But I thought their goalkeeper was awesome. But here's my philosophical question: can you have a world-class performance if you kind of let in a goal? I mean, the first goal from Harry Kane, you could say was a mess up by him. But other than that, the only reason why they were close in that match was him standing on his head, which is a hockey reference, Ben. Can you have a world-class performance when you might have been at fault for one goal as a goalkeeper?
I think you can, particularly... it just blew my mind. Particularly that... I can't remember what the opportunity was, but someone on the right wing for Tottenham whips the ball in. It was like half shot, half cross. I don't even know.
It came to Kane. I believe.
It came to Kane, and I don't even know how Kane got his head on it and got it on target. But that goalkeeper getting down and saving that was outrageous. Yeah, I think so, and I think do you expect? First of all, you don't want to rely on a world-class performance from a goalkeeper to keep a clean sheet and beat Spurs, or you can probably expect to let in a goal against Spurs, and I think that's okay. But did he stop Spurs from scoring 5 goals? The answer is yes. I was very, very impressed.
Let me ask you this: I don't think that keeper makes that mistake unless he's having a world-class game. I think that he was so running on adrenaline and so hyped up by his own performance that a player that's not so charged doesn't move so early for that ball that then that Kane hits that then turns back in. I think he makes that mistake because he's buzzing, that he knows he's having a great game, that he sees the ball, he goes early, and then it cuts back the other way and goes in. And I think they were harsh on Match of the Day about, well, he should be saving that. I don't think it's as easy to save as they think. And I think the fact that he was having a world-class game made him buzzing too much and probably led to that mistake.
I also think that's really hard. Like, that goalkeepers are judged unlike any other player on the field is judged, right? If you have someone at the other end, if you have Harry Kane scoring a hat trick and then he misses one that's 2 yards out and he blazes it over the bar, they're not going to say anything about that. They're going to celebrate his hat trick. That's all they're going to care about and talk about how world class he is. And I think it's the same with the goalkeeper. They are under such scrutiny. I think definitely you can have a world class game. He did it. He let in a goal. He made a mistake. But then what player doesn't make a single mistake over the course of the game? The problem is that goalkeeper mistakes are highlighted.
Ben, we've talked about Ole. He only exceeds in sort of counterattacking style and that produces inconsistent results. Could we see the same for Mourinho in the title push? If you're going to play Sissoko and Højbjerg, or I think that's how you say it, Højbjerg? It's inconsistent names to how we say the Tottenham central midfielder. Højbjerg, whatever.
Højbjerg.
Yeah, if you play those two in defensive midfield against Crystal Palace, are you going to be able to score enough goals consistently against a mid-table team that sits back and does not do what Jose Mourinho wants to do?
So in this case, yes, but I think that's just what we're going to see this season. Condensed season, lots of games. You're not going to see the runaway leaders of Liverpool and Man City that we saw last season. You don't need to win every game. So the fact that they drop points here, I don't think it matters. Everyone's dropping points. And I think it's going to be the team that does the best squad rotation, that gets knocked out of the cup competitions early, that's going to see the most success in the league. So I think you're going to see this experimentation, this constant changing of formation, this constant bringing through youngsters, and a real drop-off of teams that have started to play the same players again and again and again. So I think it's just part of the course. They drew this 1-1. I think that's a fine result. Palace are a tough team. They rotated and they got a point, and everyone else dropped points. I think that's just going to be a lot of what we're going to see this season in the Premiership.
But I think that's the point. They didn't rotate. So it's the same sort of defensive setup as they're playing against the big boys. I just wonder, who am I to question the special one, but do you play someone like Harry Winks against Crystal Palace when you know that you're going to have to come forward a little bit more than the expected goals of 0 in the second half that you had against Arsenal and Chelsea, right? Just a different – I wonder if Mourinho is going to have to play in his last Chelsea team, he had Cesc Fabregas in midfield, right? He had a guy that when teams sat back could pick them apart. He doesn't – I guess Harry Winks is that guy for Tottenham, but Sissoko and Højbjerg are not that in central midfield. So I wonder against those teams that aren't going to come on to Mourinho, does he have the structural flexibility with that first 11 to capture the 3 points against the teams that aren't going to play his way?
So I guess why he played those was it's a physical game. Crystal Palace, very, very physical players, big, strong players throughout the team. I think Harry Winks gets overrun in a game like that. You don't have time to pick it. You need very strong holding midfields to break up play, be strong in challenges. And I think that's probably why he played them, to play a more physical, less maybe technical midfield than he needs to. So I don't know. We can second guess tactics. Did he get it right? Did he get it wrong? I think he thought it was going to be a physical game. We need to play big, strong physical players to counteract that. And it was a 1-1 draw that could have really gone either way as well. So now we're saying, did he play the right formation? He could have easily scraped a 1-0, and now we'd be saying here he's playing the league exactly right.
Okay. We'll wrap it up with Tottenham. Let's kind of get through these next couple matches fairly quickly. I want to get through this team very quickly. My Chelsea pensioners, the boys from Blue, we're going to, we're talking about match week 12, but they just played this afternoon, so we'll kind of discuss both matches really quickly. I'll give you my opinion. Everton 1, Chelsea 0, and then Wolves 2, Chelsea 1. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say Funboy Ben Field is correct. Chelsea have a Timo Werner problem, and it's sticking him on the wing. He is not a winger. He is a second striker, but I don't know if he can play through the center. So Chelsea's best player, right now they don't have any wing play. With Pulisic came back today, and he looked dynamic on the wing, but Pulisic and Ziyech on the wings are necessary, and I don't really know where Werner fits in. If you're not going to play him through the center, he is like, in basketball, they call him a ball stopper. Like, he just, like, there's way too many turnovers, way too many missed passes. Yes, he is, should be deadly from the left wing, but right now, Lampard has a very big problem, and a player that is not playing well, that's on big money, new transfer. It's the Werner problem, and I imagine coming out of this game, all the Chelsea content I'm going to consume is going to talk about Timo Werner and Kai Havertz to a lesser degree. Kai Havertz has some of these problems, but Kai Havertz is a little bit easier to fit into the team. So, Ben, do you want to take your victory lap right now on Timo Werner, or because it's bad right now.
I will say a few things. One, some of it's not his fault. As you say, being out on the left, it's a Aubameyang disease as well. It's not their favoured position. I do think he's missed a lot of one-on-one chances. You've got a deep squad just for that. You can rotate with Abraham and Giroud as well. So I don't think it's the end of the world. I would like to pick up Mendy on 2 mistakes now in a row that he's cost goals for as well. So I think that we're seeing maybe a weakness to Mendy's game. Great shot stopper, but maybe in that coming out and closing down, he's maybe not as sharp as he should be in the modern game, or specifically for Chelsea that play a high line as well. But I think a lot of this mainly falls on Frank's shoulders. He is in such a good position this season to win the league. He's got an embarrassment of riches throughout his team. He's got a team he can rotate and still bring in great quality. And I'm not sure he's getting the best out of this team.
The Mendy thing, he didn't have a bad game against this thing, but I did write, did Mendy start catching the Keppas? It's like the worldwide pandemic that is the Keppas. You don't want a goalkeeper. Let's get everyone vaccinated from the Keppas, because you get the Keppas, it could be deadly. It's tough. I think Frank's going to have a really big call about what he does with Werner when Ziyech and Callum Hudson-Odoi have been out, so that's limited their wing options right now. So once those two come back, and they may come back this weekend, it's going to be interesting how he handles that squad, because what do you do with Werner? Do you play Giroud through the middle? Do you play Werner through the middle? It's just dark times. It's dark times for me. I really thought that we were going to be pushing for the league this season. I think it's a little premature. Young team. You can't really buy that many pieces and expect them to gel that quickly. I think that's an unreasonable expectation that most fans give, that whenever you accumulate these super teams, it usually is the next season. When Guardiola's City, the next season is when they made their push, not that first season. Mourinho always is, what's Mourinho is the second season when they really make that push. And there's so much squad overhaul that I think it was not unfair. I think it was unrealistic expectation of me. This is the first time where I feel like we cannot push for the title. That we're not. That's a pipe dream. So I crash back to reality days to me.
And I agree with that. I think that's an important point. That where were Chelsea last season? Where were Chelsea before Frank came in? And think of all those players that were bought this season. And there is this idea, and people do talk about like, Abramovich buying the league again, like he did with Mourinho back in the day. But yeah, it does feel too soon, and those players do need time to gel. And there is this idea, I know it's like talked about a lot, this idea of like, is this player needs a bit of time to like settle and acclimatize to the Premier League, and it just seems like quite random. I'm really curious about like what kind of players do settle quicker and better in the Premier League, and I haven't really quite seen like an archetypal like example that we can use to apply to other players and really understand what that is, what their limitations are when coming in. But like, I think it definitely needs more time. We have seen of Werner, it's some amazing turn of speed, some devastating on the shoulder of the defenders. And I think, and also, and add to that, does Frank know his best team at the moment? I certainly don't. I have no idea who I'd play. Like Abraham, Werner, and Pulisic. Pulisic starting on the bench majority of games. Like, I just think they're a work in progress. I think it'd be harsh to judge them this season or to expect too much of them. But you are right. There is still that opportunity because everyone's dropping points and everyone is struggling.
Do you think Abramovich has that patience in him? I feel that he's bought a squad to see early. I understand that players need time to gel, but some of those signings aren't going to be around next year or certainly as good. So Thiago Silva is aging out. Kurt Zuma's aging out.
Kurt Zuma's 27.
Well, he looked 47 today, running back against Wolves. I think I could have beaten back today. It was sad to watch.
Kurt Zuma was not a signing. Like we've had Kurt Zuma for a while. Most of the signings were a young profile, right? Thiago Silva was a free transfer. It wasn't a signing, right? But other than that, Ziyech is it's still 27, like in the prime. Like Kai Havertz, 20, 21. Timo Werner, 24, right? Like Mindy's in his 20s. Like, it's a young side made with Reece James and Mason Mount, younger side. But to your point, will Abramovich be patient? History says no, right? Like history says no. But that's why you should never fire. That's why I believe you should never have hired Frank Lampard, because you're going to have to fire Frank Lampard, because every manager in the end, except for very, very select few, get fired, right? And like, what's that going to be like? What's that going to be like when Chelsea has to fire Frank Lampard? It's going to suck. It's like.
Ben, let me ask you this: what's the minimum or the lowest position you think Frank can finish without getting fired? The fourth. So it's Champions League or nothing. So if he comes fifth, he should go.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's Roman Abramovich, right? Like this is what it should be. It's 4, right? Like he's got to finish 4th. But Geoff, you had an interesting point. What players settle in the Premier League the best? You know what players settle in the Premier League best? The players that have played in the Premier League. You know what Liverpool does? They just buy players from Southampton, right? And that's just what you probably should do. So let's go to Merseyside, the Premier League champions, Liverpool. They drew 1-1 with Fulham. Geoff, excuse me, was the handball a penalty? There's 2 penalty decisions we had there. We had the kick and the handball. What are your opinions? Either of those penalties? None of those penalties? What of them?
This is the thing. It's got to the point I don't even know anymore. I've lost all perspective of what should be a penalty and what shouldn't be a penalty. I need some kind of reset. But yes, on close inspection, yes, that there was contact on the kick and he took the player before the ball, and so that has to be a penalty. Because the thing is, from an angle, the player came in and then you saw the ball go off at a different angle. Now, back in the day before VAR, that was always used and is as like evidence that the player got the ball when the defender slides in and then the ball goes off at a different angle. Like, they got the ball. And we did see that, but on closer inspection, he didn't. He took the player's foot and went against the ball. And the handball just seems ridiculous. It just seems absolutely ridiculous. I was thinking about this earlier today. We've kind of got to the point now where it isn't a question about whether it is a foul or whether it is. When was the last time you heard them talk about, oh yes, that was a goal scoring opportunity, and so we're giving a penalty? All it is now is like, did it touch their hand? Is there contact? And is that why penalties were introduced? I don't think they were. I think they were like when there was a foul, when there was a foul that stopped a player in the moment of a good goal scoring opportunity, yes, they deserve to have a penalty kick, which, is as good as a goal pretty much 95% of the time. But we've lost sight of that. And were either of those moments a goal scoring opportunity? The answer is no. And I don't think it should be a penalty, but that's the world we live in at the moment. It's very frustrating. I think it's skewing games. I think it's ruining games. And it's getting to the point now where actually VAR, I think it's encouraging more people to throw themselves down in the penalty area. Because first of all, the referee doesn't blow his whistle unless the player throws himself to the ground. And then they know that VAR, all they're going to do is look for contact. They're not going to look for a foul that prevented a goal scoring opportunity. It's like, did the player go to the ground? Check that box. Second, was there contact? If the answer is yes to both of those, it's a penalty. And I think it's actually making that penalty area an absolute nightmare.
Okay, let's wrap quickly with Liverpool. We're running a little long. Liverpool winless in 5 matches away from home. Again, Ben's point, no one's running away with the title. But I think most importantly coming out of this match, the thing that I will take away from this match, Ben, is Scott Parker's turtleneck. Have you seen a manager on a football pitch wear a turtleneck? I am unaware of this fashion choice. And my other question, my supplementary question to this is, how come Arsene Wenger never wore a turtleneck on the sideline? If anyone was going to wear a turtleneck on the sideline, given how long his neck is and how cold he must have, he got cold, he wore those big jackets. Why didn't Arsene Wenger wear a turtleneck on? Do you think he will wear a turtleneck back on the sideline with Wenger in?
He was French as well. Sorry to interrupt. He was French as well, so that's an extra reason why you would have expected Wenger with it. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That Scott Parker turtleneck, it wasn't just a turtleneck, that was a high turtleneck. That's a turtleneck you need to fold down again. So he was wearing that turtleneck completely wrong, but it was beautiful as well. And to wear a turtleneck with a suit, it's a beautiful thing to see. But you'll notice last year we've done the evolution of the snood. So last year it was snood, that kind of piece of material that went around your neck. So I think we've classed it up this season, moving from a snood, really the trainer's tracksuit, to the turtleneck. So I'm pleased to see that back in fashion as well. Arteta, he rocked a fantastic black turtleneck this week as well. Everyone knows that Simeone is the turtleneck icon. That's who we aspire to. Everyone knows, though, we're copying Sterling Archer. Everyone's seen Archer, his need halfway through a gun battle, halfway through defusing a bomb. He'll stop the fight and say, I need to get my tactical turtleneck. All of this, though, comes back full circle to the classic, the OG of black turtlenecks, Steve Jobs, who is now a fashion and iPod trendsetter. So all these people should pay homage.
But just to be clear, for the podcast, we are pro turtleneck on the side.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I just wanted to make sure. I mean,
it's back.
Scott Parker and Miguel Arteta might not be on top of the table, but they are top of the fashion icon table for this Premier League, for sure. Quickly, West Ham Leeds. I will give my opinion on this. I love watching Leeds. I love watching both of these teams. These are kind of like the teams that I like to watch the most that are not of the big 6 teams. I'm not convinced Bielsa even practices defensive set pieces. They just get absolutely bombarded from corners and set pieces. They let in, that's how they lost, set pieces. Chelsea killed them in set pieces. Bielsa, a lot of talk about Bielsa. If you listen to some of the more hoity-toity podcasts, feels like Bielsa not being good has given sort of the incel football fan, the rage, see, he's not a genius. Because I don't know, I don't really get the Bielsa hate. He's doing that Leeds side is sort of the same side that was a mid-table championship side that he's taken to the Premier League, and they play the best attacking football. So Bielsa, take a little bit more time on set pieces, defensive set pieces. I know that you probably see no value in them, but anyways, let's get to the winners and losers of the week. I will start out with my winner of the week, Geoff's favorite YouTube channel, AFTV, the one-stop shop for Schadenfreude. If you want to see, there's been some really great sort of mashups of the meme of where we started, where we are now, of them talking about Arteta and how great he is versus them now calling for Arteta's head. I love watching AFTV when Arsenal's losing or when they're in existential crisis. Yeah, I just love it. It's just really fun and it makes my day. So my winner of the week, AFTV. Geoff, who is your winner of the week?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. My winner of the week, I think. You know what? I think it's West Ham. West Ham for that, and that black and gold kit that West Ham wear. That is absolutely beautiful. And even though like everything on it is just black or gold, like the crest is all in gold with a black backdrop. The what is it? Betway on the front is in gold. And to be honest, I've always loved a team in black. And I'm a big fan of Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. But like that West Ham kit, and with their beautiful play and the once maligned David Moyes at spearheading their surge up the Premier League table and his own resurrection, it is West Ham. I'm absolutely in love with them. I love their kit. I love their manager. I love everything about them. Green Street Hooligans, East London, mate. I love it. They're my winners.
Okay, I agree. That was co-sign the West Ham kit. That was beautiful. Might have some other less complimentary talk about in my loser of the week of kit action. Ben, who is your winner of the week?
Well, what did we think of? Did you guys see the West Bromwich Albion kit today? They look like Phoenix coming from the flames.
Spoiler alert! That's going to be my loser of the week.
Oh man, okay.
I feel like they're the Springboks. Like it feels like that's what like the South African rugby team would be wearing. It just doesn't work.
All right. Well, let me take you back to my winner of the week. R.I.P. Gerard Houllier, one of the best characters in the Premier League, Liverpool legend. He'll be missed. Great lad.
Okay, Ben, we'll kind of round about. Who is your loser of the week?
Loser of the week is James Maddison. Scored an absolute peach of a goal. Shifted to 1 foot, but I mean, let's all admit right now, he's just the pound shot version of Grealish. Hairband, check. Attacking midfielder, check. But patchy facial hair, balding, receding, maybe a third as handsome. He's not passing that eye test. He can score as many peaches as he wants in the world. You'll never be Jack Grealish. Maybe he has a better driving license than Jack Grealish, but that's it.
Yeah, definitely driving. You know they're good mates. That it's Chilwell, Grealish, Maddison. Who's the other one? Like like when they score, they put up an A, right? And they're all friends. So
yeah,
maybe there's trouble in paradise. Maddison. Well, no. Sometimes friends, try to like the more fashionable friend. You can see like guy in the group gets a new jacket, and all of a sudden his less cool friend gets the exact same jacket, right?
No, it's more that Jack Grealish's Tinder profile picture, he's getting Maddison to be in the picture with him, so he looks exponentially better looking next to Maddison.
I think he has Moriarty from Sherlock vibes.
He looks like a rat. Yeah, maybe one of the rats in Sherlock.
Or if you're familiar with Fleabag, the hot priest, but he's not hot. He's like a less hot version of the hot priest. Okay, Geoff, your loser of the week.
Oh, without a doubt, it's embarrassing. Fabianski, how dare he? How very dare he leave the back of his heel 0.5 millimeter over the goal line? Like, look, we all know what you have to do, and also what an unfair advantage. What a cheat. What a dirty, rotten cheat. So he's my loser of the week. How dare you, Fabianski? You should be ashamed. Terrible, disgusting behavior.
Peter Cech, who's had a nice tweet about that. He kind of advocated drawing one of those magic white lines in front of it and saying you can basically you can't cross this line.
I don't understand what he means by that. I don't get that.
Well, he's basically saying that if you keep your feet on the line, the physics of stopping the ball, there's just too much area to catch. It's never going to work. So they should have like a buffer zone. And if your foot touches the buffer zone, then it's a retake, right? So anyways, nice tweet by Peter Cech. Okay.
It was insane because then you just stand at the buffer zone. That was the point. Like, why would you not just move up to the buffer? Everyone's going to cheat. But agree, it's tying the keeper's hands.
All right, guys. Match week 13, which is going to come midweek, which has already started with 2 crappy results for the top 6. Wait, Manchester City drew against West Brom, right?
Mm-hmm. They did.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but they did. Yeah.
What's Conor Gallagher for West Brom? Check him out. He's a Chelsea loanee, 20-year-old, great head of hair. Looks like he's from California, but really from London. Great head of hair on Conor Gallagher, Chelsea boy.
Who isn't on loan from Chelsea right now? I think Grabby's on loan from Chelsea. I'm on loan for Chelsea. Probably we all are if we check our contracts.
I think the big development with the Chelsea loanees or Chelsea new boys is Mason Mount shaved that terrible goatee he had. I mean, what was he thinking? That was awful.
That lob, though, was amazing this week and hit the bar on the lob. I wish that had gone in.
Mason Mount's really good, guys. I'm glad that the Mason Mount is terrible debate has ended. Mason Mount's really good.
Yeah, agreed.
So for this week, basically tomorrow, we have 3 matches that I want to highlight as the 3 most important matches and get our thoughts about it. In the third slot, taking the bronze medal, Leicester versus Everton. Everton coming off reversing that slide, beating Chelsea. Leicester, near top of the table, Leicester. What do we think about Leicester v Everton?
Maybe it's the battle of the English strikers with Calvert-Lewin and Vardy. I think there's some interest there. Both teams struggling. Both teams got talisman strikers. Let's see who comes out on top.
Okay, in the second place, the silver medal. We talked about at the beginning. Will the Arsenal slide continue? They are facing the most informed. I call them the stalking horse teams, the collection of like Leicester, Southampton, Wolves, the teams that we're going to quite get in the Champions League, but they are quite good sides. The stalking horse team, Southampton, the Liverpool farm team, Arsenal v Southampton. Geoff, do we think that Arsenal can reverse the slide against Southampton?
I do not think that it's possible. I think Southampton are looking amazing at the moment. I believe their manager's being tapped up by possibly, or there was rumours that it might be going to like another team might buy.
Borussia Dortmund.
Borussia Dortmund, something like that. I don't think that's happening, but wow, they are looking absolutely amazing with Ings up front, and they've got their own Van Dijk or their own Kurt Zouma at the back. They've got Vestergaard, who isn't shy of a headed goal, who's an absolute machine of a centre back. I love what they're doing, and they just look. They are on an absolute roll. Stark opposition to Arsenal at the moment. Arsenal are struggling. It's Southampton all day. I don't even see Arsenal scoring against them.
Can I just add that? So everyone talks about Ralph Hasenhuttl, however you want to say that, being like maybe that's the next Arsenal manager, right? He's the next big thing. But let's talk just about how good Southampton's board is at recruitment, at finding those right players. They get picked off by Liverpool every single season. Van Dijk gets taken, Poch gets taken, but then they replace with such quality. They're saying that Liverpool's going to come in again for that big Southampton striker as well. Yeah, it's not just how good their manager is, it's how good that board is at recruitment and bringing in the right players to fill these world-class players they keep losing season upon season. And now what? They're third in the Premiership? Unbelievable. So, yeah, it's commendations to the manager, the players, but also the board for that recruitment.
Højbjerg from Mourinho. He came from Southampton, right? That's like turning around that
top
midfield. Speaking of Mourinho, as a former Chelsea fan, as a former Mourinho-ologist, guy who was raised on the teats of Mourinho football, I am looking forward to this match. Tottenham v Liverpool. I believe that Jose is gonna tank Jurgen, and the Jose Renaissance is gonna be fully complete, and we are going to get Tottenham for the title. It's going to happen, and It's going to be as defensive as my favorite Jose defensive performances when the famous Gerrard slip match, right? We had a Champions League semifinal against, I think, Atletico Madrid the coming Saturday. So he played a team of Demba Ba, Todd Callis, names you never. Actually, Mo Salah was in that match for Chelsea, right? He is going to set 11 behind the ball and invite the Liverpool front line to come at him, and he's going to break them. He's going to break them. Tottenham are going to beat Liverpool. You heard it here first.
I think it is teed up for Mourinho to do that, and because you know that he's just fantasizing about the post-match interviews, where it's like, yes, we let them have the ball, we'll take the 3 points, and like he said previously, and I could see that happening. I think the only caveat to that is that with these kind of games, what happens if Tottenham go behind? Do they have the minerals to come back in that kind of situation? But because we know Liverpool have it, we know that they can do that. We know that they can go behind and come back and beat anybody. But it'll be really, I'm really interested to see that if Liverpool do get that early goal, how Spurs respond to that with like the kind of setup that they have.
Ben, do you think that Jose should be favored in this match? Do you think that Tottenham should be favored in this match?
I think this match is going to be an absolute stinker. It's got Manchester Derby written all across. It's got two teams that the worst thing in the world is them losing. So they're going to set up both very, very defensively. Liverpool's on a wobble right now as well. So I think this is going to be a struggle bus for both teams. That we both think there's going to be some giant, really 4D chess move, and it's not. It's going to be two very, very tired teams sitting back trying not to lose.
Well, to Geoff's point, I don't know what I'm looking forward to most, the match or the post-match press conferences that both these managers are going to give. Because if Mourinho wins, oh my God, it's going to be the articles the English press is going to have to write. If Jose takes down their golden boy Jurgen, it's going to be so good. But the game's coming fast and quick. We will be back on the podcast Thursday to recap what has happened match day 13. So we got a slew of matches on Wednesday. Geoff and Ben, but that does it. We've closed match week 12. We feel good. We feel good about the podcast.
Love it. See you Thursday.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. It's been amazing.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.